Welcome to part 2 of my rant about Beavis and Butt-head, Daria, and Celebrity Deathmatch. So it seems that some of you guys pretty much enjoyed part 1 of my rant about these 3 favorite shows of mine from MTV last week. I pretty much got like 64 views of part 1, so hopefully part 2 will have more views. And as you can see, I'm wearing a shirt of Beavis and Butt-head in order for me to do part 2 of this rant. So pretty much in part 1, I've talked about all 3 of these shows and what were they about. And now part 2 is going to be about my favorite episodes of these shows. So I may have to speed this up because I don't know if I can still record videos longer than 15 minutes. But if it go past 15 minutes, then I'll just keep going until I stop recording or until the video stops itself. So let's get to my favorite episodes of Beavis and Butt-head first. I like season 2, episode 1, Scientific Stuff. That's when Daria was first introduced, and she was forced to work with Beavis and Butt-head on a class project after the boys had failed to do a class project of their own. And Daria sets out to prove that the duo's stupidity could be scientifically explained. And I like how Beavis, Butt-head, and Daria was doing a presentation of the science project that they came up with. And I'm so glad that they had passed that class project. Alright, another one of my favorite episodes from the second season. The No Laughing episode. That's where Beavis and Butt-head kept on laughing in every class of their high school. And they kept getting sent to the principal's office. So instead of suspending Beavis and Butt-head, Principal McVicker decided to give the boys a little probation that they cannot laugh for a whole week, and if they do laugh, they will be expelled. So, alright, let's get to season 3. What's my favorite episode from Beavis and Butt-head season 3? I really don't know what's my favorite episode from season 3. But if I don't have a favorite episode from season 3, let's go ahead to season 4. Let's see. Of course, I think Manners Suck is my favorite episode from season 4. That's where Mr. Manners was introduced, and Mr. Manners was introduced in this episode, and he was trying to talk to the class about manners, but he ends up grabbing Beavis and Butt-head and ends up in a physical fight with Mr. Van Driesen. And then at the end of the episode, the boys use manners while using the bathroom. I also like the Pipe of Doom episode where Beavis and Butt-head were trying to discover what was it like being in a pipe. And then Butt-head ends up being stuck in a pipe, and a crew was trying to rescue Butt-head, and then he eventually got out of the pipe. And then Beavis tried to do the same thing, and then he ends up being in the pipe, which was really funny. I also like the Great Cornholio episode. That's where Beavis' alter ego Cornholio was introduced. Or I think it was introduced in season 3, episode 1. Of course, you know how Beavis is. Every time he eats a lot of sugar, he ends up being hyperactive. And then he ends up putting his head over his shirt and transforming himself into his alter ego, the Great Cornholio. And he goes like this: I am Cornholio. I need TP for my bunghole. Which, that never gets old, and it's still funny to this day. Season 5, episode 45, Murder Site. That's where the boys go to this apartment where this one guy had murdered his brother. And my favorite part of the episode where Butthead kept calling Beavis butt knocker one too many times, which was really hilarious. Season 6, episode 1, the Halloween episode. That's where Beavis and Butthead attempt to go trick-or-treating. They were unsuccessful because they were too old and they didn't even wear no costumes. So they decided to come up with their own costumes. Beavis having underwear under his head and Butthead pouring a pot of nachos in his head. Oh my God. And of course, Beavis ends up eating all of Mr. Anderson's candy and transforms himself into his alter ego Cornholio. I also like the last episode of season 6 where Beavis and Butthead was watching a TV commercial of non-alcoholic beer, think that is really beer. That was really funny too. I think the Christmas episode is in season 6 or season 5. If it is in season 5 or season 6, that's another one of my favorite Beavis and Butthead episodes. Season 7. Season 7. Let me see. Season 7. I like the nosebleed episode where Beavis or Butthead punches Beavis in the nose and then Beavis having a nosebleed. And Butthead makes several useless attempts to help him before plugging Beavis' nose with a tampon in each nostril, which causes his nose to stop bleeding. I also like the butt flam episode. That's where Beavis ended up going to the hospital because his rear end was being burned. And then Butthead was trying to be a doctor in that episode. I think another one of my favorite episodes is from either season 3 or 4, Patience, Patience, where Beavis and Butthead go to see a doctor and a dentist, or eye doctor and a dentist. But after making their doctors angry, Butthead's mouth was being wired shut and Beavis had to wear glasses, which makes his eyesight even worse. Back to season 7, the Thanksgiving episode with guest star Kurt Loder. And of course I like the last episode, which was Beavis and Butthead Are Dead. That's where Highland High School secretary calls Beavis and Butthead's house and try to figure out why the boys were not in school for a couple of weeks. Then Beavis claims on the phone that he and Butthead were dead. And all the school faculty, with the exception of Mr. Van Treese, were celebrating their death. Then Beavis and Butthead ends up going to the school on the news, and Mr. Van Treese, or Principal McVicker, ends up having a heart attack thinking that the boys were dead. Then they walk off the sunset claiming that they're rich and they don't have to go to school anymore. That was the original last episode until the 2011 revival. Now my favorite episodes from the revival season. Crying. That's where the boys were watching a soap opera and Beavis discovers an onion in a chili dog. He sniffs it, then having tears coming down his eyes, and then Butthead ends up making fun of him throughout the entire episode, saying, Beavis, you were crying. And then he said, damn it, Butthead, I was not crying. That episode was funny as hell. Of course, I like the Holy Cornholio episode where the great Cornholio returns after the show was canceled for 14 years. I also like the rat episode where the boys discover a rat in their house. And after they caught it with a mouse trap, they end up having it as a pet. I also like the copy machine where Coach Buzzcut sends the duo to the copy room to make several copies. Beavis tried to copy his ass on the copy machine, but the glass breaks and he ends up being stuck in the copy machine. So that's pretty much my favorite episodes of Beavis and Butt-head. Now on to Daria. I like season 1, episode 5, Mauled. That's where Mrs. Bennett takes her academic class on a field trip to the Mall of the Millennium, but Daria and Jane want nothing to do with this trip and have no way out of it. Season 2, episode 12, Pierce Me. That's where Daria and Trent were trying to buy a birthday present for Jane, so Daria ends up having her belly button pierced. And at the end of the episode, Quinn would try to snitch on Daria, telling Helen and Jake that Daria has her belly button pierced. But the ring was already out of Daria's navel. She took it out because she couldn't stand the itching. Season 3, episode 2, Through a Lens Darkly. That's where Daria decided to wear contacts. But when she woke up after having a nightmare to get ready to go to school, she didn't want to wear her contacts or her glasses, so she ends up bumping into people and to stuff at school. Season 4, the last episode of season 4, Die, Die, My Darling. Oh, I also like the Daria musical episode in the first episode of season 3. Season 4, the last episode, that's where Jane's boyfriend Tom was introduced, and I hate how he ends up cheating on Jane with Daria. That was just messed up. I'm not sure what's my favorite episode of season 5, but I guess that's pretty much all my favorite episodes of Daria. And I also like the TV movie, Is It College Yet? That's where all the seniors of Lawndale High School graduate, with the exception of Kevin, who end up flunking his senior year and was held back while everybody else graduated. Now to my favorite episodes of Celebrity Deathmatch. Fandemonium 1 from season 1. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon. Adam Sandler versus Chris Rock. And Jenny McCarthy versus Carmen Electra. We all know Stone Cold won against Vince McMahon by giving Vince McMahon a Stone Cold Stunner and hitting Vince McMahon with the Undertaker's tombstone until Vince McMahon ends up being, well, you know. We all know Stone Cold Steve Austin won against Vince McMahon. Chris Rock beats Adam Sandler, but Chris Rock tried to get out of the ring to have the to prevent the fan from Fandemonium slicing him into pieces. So he ends up being sliced into pieces by the fan of Fandemonium. And Chris Rock, he ends up being the winner and the loser of that match. And Jenny McCarthy won against Carmen Electra, with Adam Stern being the special guest referee. I also like the battle between Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman. We all know who won that match. Michael Jordan. I also like the match between Beavis and Butt-head. Oh my God, who remembers that episode where Beavis fought Butt-head? Of course, Beavis won as his alter ego, Cornholio. First, the boys was in cartoon form, then they ended up being in 3D form. And for those of you that are wondering, did Mike Judge voice Beavis and Butt-head in that Celebrity Deathmatch episode? Yes, they did, so please stop asking. And of course, NSYNC versus the Backstreet Boys. Of course, NSYNC won against the Backstreet Boys. To be honest, I like NSYNC better than the Backstreet Boys back when I was younger. Even though NSYNC are not together anymore, I still like them better than the Backstreet Boys. What other fights do I like? I also like from the season 5, Shaq versus Kobe. I figured that Shaq was going to win. I actually wanted Kobe to win, but Shaq won by tearing Kobe up into pieces. And he tried to shoot a free throw. using Kobe's body parts, but he ends up, we all know Shaq sucks at free throws. So he ends up missing all the parts. He ends up missing all free throws by using Kobe's body parts. I also like the match with Missy Elliott and Gwen Stefani. I'm so glad Missy Elliott won. And I also like the match between Bow Wow and Romeo. I figured that Bow Wow was going to win. I actually wanted Romeo to win, but Bow Wow won that match. Lil Flip versus Lil Wayne. I wanted Lil Flip to win, and I'm glad he won. I also like the match between The Game and 50 Cent. I wanted 50 Cent to win, and I'm glad that he won. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up part 2 of my rant about Beavis and Butt-head, Daria, and Celebrity Deathmatch of what are my favorite episodes of the show. So let me know in the comments below, what are your favorite episodes of Beavis and Butt-head, Daria, and Celebrity Deathmatch? And I can't believe this video has went past 15 minutes without it being cut off, but thank God. So if you like this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more videos, and I will definitely catch you on the next one. Don't follow your dreams, chase them. Peace. Part 3 of this rant coming soon.